Hello everyone and welcome to the Chamber Chat. I'm Matt Phillips, co-founder and managing partner at Rise Partners. Thank you for joining us inside the Chattanooga Chamber's Connection Conference Center powered by EPB. Today's guest is J.Ed Marston, Vice President of Communications at EPB, where he leads in efforts which include public relations, community engagement, and corporate communications. He's been instrumental in helping launch community programs like HCS EdConnect, which provide access to home-based fiber optic broadband to Hamilton County students. He's a friend of the Chamber and in fact served as Vice President of Marketing for our Chamber of Commerce for 12 years. Let's welcome him to the show with a round of applause. Okay, so through EPB, Chattanooga became the first to offer 1 gig fiber internet service to businesses and residents in 2010. Last year, our gig city reached another milestone when EPB launched the country's first community-wide 25 gig internet service. How have these broadband speeds served to better our community?
Well, thanks, Matt. It's good to be here, and I appreciate the introduction. So I'm going to talk about this kind of in 3 bands. One, our mission is to enhance quality of life for our community, and that does include the local economy. That's a big focus. But initially, launching the gig was all about providing better internet service. Remember how miserable it was with the internet service we had before, and we were, a local locality where the big guys were never going to do fiber or anything like that. So that's band one. We increased internet speeds. People loved it. And it was a really good thing. Sure. Second band really has to do, I think, with both individual and community impacts. So there was a study done just a couple years ago about the first 10 years after the fiber optic network was launched. And it basically tabulated about $2.7 billion in benefit to the community. Wow. And that's not benefit to EPB, we're talking about benefit to folks like you and me at home. Mm-hmm. Through things like a 55% reduction in power outages, and think about the productivity you lose when the power's out and the spoilage that companies experience, all those things. So that was a massive impact. It also helped create about 10,000 jobs over that 10-year period that we wouldn't have had otherwise. In other words, the researchers traced those jobs to the effect of this. And a lot of that was entrepreneurial activity. I don't know if you recall, but we had this incredible blossoming 2010 of entrepreneurial activity. In some ways, your company was a part of that.
Right in there, yeah.
So it's really had that kind of an effect. And for some businesses, it's very direct, like companies like Legacy Box, a local company that is the largest company in the United States that takes analog, like photographs, videos, old VHS videos, and digitizes them. And they do all that to the cloud. So having those tremendous upload and download speeds has a tremendous impact on their productivity and on their ability to grow here in Chattanooga. Sure. So it's a wide range of things like that. You mentioned HCS EdConnect, which I will not take too much credit for, but I'm very proud to be a part of the company and the community that came together, because it wasn't just EPB, it was the schools, the city, the county. A lot of funding partners came together to make it possible for every school child in need in our schools to have internet at no charge. And that was originally done as a antidote to the pandemic when all the students had to go home. Yeah. But what we did differently in Chattanooga, and this isn't just EPB again, it's our community partners that helped with the money, it is a permanent program. A lot of people, they did these things in other cities and they had to ship their wireless cards back as soon as the pandemic ended. Our students are continuing to benefit from that.
That's great, that's amazing.
Actually, I'm sorry. One more thing.
Okay.
The other thing, and this really builds into the rest of the story, or I would just leave it out, we have also become a real research center. So one of the things that occurred is, we have not only the internet, the community-wide internet, we also have a smart grid, the most advanced smart grid in the United States. And as a result of that, we have become the locus of over $100 million in federal research. Now, EPB didn't get much of that money, honestly. Mostly went to Oak Ridge and some of the other players. But the key thing is that we have become a community where they take technologies and test them and optimize them and develop best cases before deploying them nationally. And that's had a tremendous impact. And it's resulted in part in the growth of some of our local entities like the Center for Urban Informatics and Progress, which we should talk about a little bit more later on, and I'll make sure I include that.
Okay, well great, that's incredible. This year, EPB launched its Quantum Network, in partnership with the City of Chattanooga and Cubatech. How did this partnership with Cubatech start?
Well, somewhat similar to what we were just talking about with the national research, the U.S. Department of Energy put out a grant. They wanted research done on how to improve cybersecurity for the power grid. So we've all had this experience. Colonial Pipeline affected gas prices a few years ago when they got hacked. So there's a real sense of urgency around how do we protect our infrastructure. And the power grid is perhaps more fundamental than any other piece of infrastructure, and in some ways more vulnerable because it is a networked technology. So they basically offered a grant, and the idea was how could we use quantum technology, specifically some effects of quantum technology, to make the power grid more secure. And I'll just very briefly say that the specific effect is something called quantum entanglement. And the idea is subatomic particles, this is weird, but they can be entangled such that they are identical even when they're separated from great distances. And that allows for the possibility of a kind of cryptography where you basically use one of the particles as a key to see if the other particle has been messed with. And that allows you to determine whether someone has gotten onto your network that isn't supposed to. Wow. So we partnered with Oak Ridge and a company called Cubatech in basically the particles that are used are photons or light particles. So what are you going to use to convey them but a fiber optic network? Okay. And what are we rich in Chattanooga? We've got a fiber optic network. So we built out a number of test environments for their technology, fiber optic loops, and tested it over progressively longer distances over a period of time. And in 2022, we, along with Oak Ridge and Cubatech, received an R&D 100 award for the development of that technology. And just to give you some idea, this is one of the most prestigious innovation awards in the United States, and it's kind of weird that a local municipal power provider would be in the game for something like that. So we were very proud to participate.
Subatomic particles, did I say that correctly?
Subatomic.
Subatomic particles.
Subatomic.
Okay. Well,
smaller than atomic.
Glad there's not a quiz at the end, but that's that's incredible. What is a quantum network?
All right, here we go.
And what does it mean for Chattanooga's future?
All right.
Two-part
This
question.
should be really two questions. So, and I'm going to start by saying I'm not a physicist. I'm a communications guy, so we're about to see something amazing or utter disaster. Y'all get to decide.
Okay, great.
So basically the idea is there are things, the way things operate at the quantum level is very strange. It's very different than what we experience. When we experience, I'm sitting in this chair, you're sitting in that chair, right? For subatomic particles, they can do things like, for example, there's a principle called superposition, and what that means is that one particle can be pushed into a situation where it's actually in multiple places at the same time. I mean, it doesn't intellectually make sense, but you can see the implications for example, computing. In on and off switch in a conventional computer, it's either on or off. You can take a quantum particle and push it into a situation where it's both, and it's even more, right? It doesn't just have to be binary. You can potentially have a unit of information that represents lots of different possibilities instead of just being on or off. And the implications for that in terms of computing are computers that can potentially compute billions of times faster than the fastest computers that are at Oak Ridge right now. Wow. So you can imagine that's a very paradigm-shifting possibility. Sure. And it also means that the kinds of problems that we could potentially use this computing to solve are different. Basically, what we're always doing with computers is sophisticated arithmetic. That's what they're doing. Sure. They're adding and subtracting, they're doing mathematical operations. Because this kind of computing can handle multiple different possibilities at the same time, it has implications for things like business optimization. Take a complicated system like shipping or healthcare. How do you optimize that? Well, it's not going to be a sequence. It's got to be something that can handle lots of different variables at the same time. Sure. So that's the power of it. Quantum networking, which is specifically what we're involved in, is basically a network that can handle these kinds of data packets, these qubits. They're entangled photons still, and we have them across a loop. And we're at a state of the technology where these things are so undeveloped that to have a place where different entrepreneurs can come, plug their equipment in, see if it works with everybody else's equipment, and also be able to test their equipment without having a situation where they have to build the whole thing themselves. So basically what EPB Quantum Network is the first commercially available quantum network in the United States. And it is a place where entrepreneurs, researchers can come, plug their equipment into the network, use it, see if it works, and we hope that they will then stay and invest in Chattanooga and build their stuff here and employ our people. So what does it mean? What it means for Chattanooga is an incredible economic development opportunity. So think about Huntsville before they became Rocket City. We hope that we're at the outset of something like that for Chattanooga. This is an emerging industry. It's going to be worth about $2 billion in the next few years, and we think it will grow exponentially. So to kind of get in on the ground floor, I think has tremendous potential, and it has potential nationally. The federal government and private industry are investing billions in this because China's neck and neck with us. This is a situation where we are nationally in a position where we could fall behind if we're not careful. So there's a lot of investment coming in it. We hope that we can help bring some of that investment to Chattanooga to round out our economy. And one of the things that's incredible about this is it isn't just an opportunity for physicists. This industry is going to need, in fact, one of the people that works at Cubatech right now, one of our principal people that we work with is a Chat State graduate. So people that know networking, people that know fiber optics, people that know technical things that are not necessarily quantum physics, but also we're going to need marketers. It's going to be a whole ecology that's going to be involved.
That's incredible. So I think we have a short video. If we could cue that up, let's take a look at a video.
Have you ever borrowed a book from thousands of miles away? Across the country?
Gesture ahead. Take next.
Without stopping for directions?
101.
Or sent someone a fax? From the beach? You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T. Have you ever paid a toll without slowing down? Bought concert tickets from a cash machine?
Yeah, perfect.
You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T. Have you ever watched the movie you wanted to, the minute you wanted to? Learn special things.
That's all taken from jazz.
Know any questions? From faraway places.
Oakland?
So where did jazz come from?
Good question.
Or tucked your baby in from a phone booth. You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T. Have you ever kept an eye on your home when you're not at home? Or gotten a phone call?
Hello.
How was your day?
On your wrist?
Beautiful.
You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T.
Your true voice.
Have you ever opened doors
I'm home.
with the sound of your voice?
Our card, please.
Carried your medical history in your wallet?
Your wife's gonna be just fine.
So this is where we stand on the atrium.
Or attended a meeting
I really like what you guys have been doing, but
in your bare feet?
I may have a few other ideas.
You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T. Have you ever had a classmate who's thousands of miles away?
Yes.
Calling about the touch-up paint you ordered.
Conducted business in a language you don't understand? You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T.
So the setup for that, of course, is that was before the internet was really a thing.
Yeah, 1994 I saw.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were trying to envision what it would mean, And they got a lot of stuff
Yeah.
sort of right
Yeah.
and sort of hilariously wrong, like who would ever go to a public telephone booth to make a video call, right? But, and unfortunately, now work can find you on the beach. That seemed like a good idea at the time, but it's really not. But this is kind of what we're talking about.
Right.
You know, with this quantum network, with quantum computing, there really are possibilities that we can't even imagine right now. And that's one of the things that's the most exciting about working at EPB. It really is about how do we create a platform for innovation that benefits the community and helps, you know, entrepreneurs, people like you, the business community, come together and creating possibilities we couldn't imagine on our own.
Sure. Well, great. Yeah, that was, it's pretty impressive how close they got that video from 1994 from some of the things that have come to be. And fortunately, I think other companies had a say in who brought it to them. But
absolutely. Well, AT&T does have the backbone of the internet, so
sure,
they
yeah,
weren't
that's
totally
right.
off.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
finish the whole job.
That's right. So how will local businesses leverage this network, and what industries will this technology attract?
So talk about this, I want to talk about this a couple ways. So we already talked about the potential for economic impact and drawing new companies and new investment to Chattanooga, and I think those are going to be the most immediate effects for our local businesses. Is the potential to grow our market and to be a real player in an emerging industry that has tremendous growth potential. In the longer term, there are specific things that our business community, I think, will benefit from. One of those, the cybersecurity that we were talking about. You know, we think about the positive side of quantum cybersecurity, which is amazing. The scary thing is, if we don't develop it in a competitive way as other nations do, that could be a real vulnerability for us. So it really is a national imperative that we be a player in that. And our companies have the potential to benefit from that technology first as it's developed. That's our intention. Another way is the building up of our local economy. So one of the big things that we've worked to do is not just to take, you know, the quantum network, which is, you know, a set of technology, but how do we put people in the picture? I think that's one of the things that EPB does best, is how do we integrate whatever technology with the people who use it, the community who uses it. A major opportunity there is what we launched with Gig City Goes Quantum. So the goal there really is a partnership. It's about 20 different entities, I'll name at least a few of them, to start to prepare our local people to raise their awareness about this opportunity, like we're doing now, to prepare them for quantum jobs, start doing that, and then also to provide business support. So we launched with an initial effort basically to generate about 1,000 quantum learning activities, and we did a bunch of live stream events and some other things. We're actually up to over 2,000 with several weeks to go before the end of the campaign. So that's the raising awareness. We've partnered with Chattanooga State and UTC that are both working on doing preparation programs for the workforce that's going to be needed. And as we talked about, it's going to be much broader than a bunch of quantum physicists.
Sure.
Lots of different kinds of professionals will be involved. And then lastly, we've partnered with the Chamber and also with CoLab in providing that business development support.
Sure.
So initially we're anticipating a range of entrepreneurial companies that are involved in the space, but there are also some major players, and we are courting them as well. And it would be tremendous if we could persuade one of these large tech companies, you know, to locate a presence in Chattanooga, and that is a possibility.
That's great. So you mentioned the Gig City Goes Quantum initiative. How is this initiative helping with filling the gaps in our digital divide?
Gig City Goes Quantum really is about how do we engage all sorts of people in this newly emerging industry. So we talk about, and I've had several conversations, I don't understand this, et cetera. I'm sure you probably still don't understand it.
Right.
I don't understand it. But what we can understand is the implications and the kinds of jobs that we can prepare people for so that they can contribute to the development of this industry. And that's what Gig City Goes Quantum is all about. It's about how do we build out an ecology of education and support in our community so that this industry can grow. You know, it's a totally new industry, so it doesn't have all the conventional things that most industries have, right?
Right.
It doesn't have its own preparation program yet, but that's what we're working on.
That's great. Well, I've learned a lot. I've learned, we joked a little bit about how this may be the subject matter I know least about, but this has been incredibly informative for me. Tell the people in the audience and the people at home how they can learn more about everything we've talked about.
Absolutely. So there are two websites that I would encourage people to go to. One is epbquantumnetwork.com, and that is the website that we've stood up really to market to the companies we're working to bring to Chattanooga. The other one is gigcitygoesquantum.com, and that is a website where we have all the learning activities that we talked about, including a number of videos that really Dr. Duncan Earl, the CTO of Cubatech and a bona fide quantum physicist, gives several laypersons explanations of quantum technology that are very, very helpful, and they're on that website. So I encourage people to check that out.
That's great. Well, good. Well, that wraps up another insightful Chamber Chat session. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and thank you for our viewers at home. Stick around for the Q&A for those in the audience. J.Ed, thank you so much for being on today's show. Let's give our guests one more round of applause.